Well, yesterday was a pretty busy day. A lot of stuff. Great question that you asked in your time allotted with the three new Bears and also Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles. What was your biggest takeaway? We've been talking about it all morning. Everyone has their favorite moment. What was yours?
Well, I mean, they got a super high-energy guy in Grady Jarrett. Like, he should make a pretty immediate impact in that room, and they're hoping he's still got big impact on the field going into year 11. He's a guy that's played an awful lot of football at a high level. I think if you have a conversation over the last decade or so of the best three-technique tackle in the league that's not named Aaron Donald, like Grady's firmly going to be in that chat, right? And that's a position, we've talked about the center position for a while, which they should introduce Drew Dahlman later on at Hallis Hall today. The center position kind of vexing the Bears, and it was the one that they couldn't get a guy, and they tried some different players. I think the three-technique tackle's sort of been that spot on defense, and so you add him, they add Dio, and they've kind of got a new look defensive line with a totally revamped offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about that. I mean, I thought Justin Jones was okay at three technique. We've been watching Gervon Dexter have his moments there, but Grady Jarrett is legit, and that will help guys like Gervon Dexter and Zach Pickens fall into place as well. I also thought Biggs yesterday, low key. Joe Thuney was great. Jonah Jackson, though, I did like the way he took 2, 3, 4 questions about what happened last year when he was forced to start at center, had the fractured scapula, and just never really recovered his season in terms of his play. And I know he returned to play after the injury. But what did you make of what Jackson said about last year? And do you have any concern about that based on what he said yesterday?
But I think he was pretty straightforward about it, and I'm sure the Bears looked into it. Should there be a level of concern? Yeah. Anytime you see a guy sign a $51 million 3-year deal.
Yep, exactly.
Huge payday from the Rams.
At this time last year, about this time last year, exactly.
Absolutely right. I mean, he was one of the top available offensive linemen on the market a year ago, and when a team a year later is like, yeah, we're going to move on here, that's pause for concern, right? You got to take a look here. But I thought he gave solid answers to it, and ultimately, though, you got to trust the new head coach here. He's got the experience with them. He's been in the room with them. He's been on the field with him. So I think you put your faith in Ben Johnson there with the Jonah Jackson move, the trade to get him, and you hope that he can kind of regain his healthy ways, because like it wasn't just last year that's at least a little concerning. He missed a total of 9 ball games combined in 2022 and 2023. So you talk about missing 4 or 5 games a year, and that's third. You're getting up to a third of the season that is an issue for you there. So I think considering his age and his contract situation, the guaranteed money runs out after this year. If Jonah Jackson wants to be a guy on the field and a guy that can get to the negotiating table again, the Bears ought to get the very best that he has to offer this season.
Brad, you asked a very good question about culture, and you've heard a lot of it before. Being up there as long as you have and seeing as many new players introduced as you have, the culture argument, or every new team and regime and coach and player wants to talk about infusing the building with the new culture. Is this any different to you? Did your answer make you feel like this, or anything you heard yesterday make you feel like this was different than previous introductions and previous new regimes?
I'm open-minded to it being to it being different, because they've got players in here with real experience on winning teams and guys that have been established. Like Joe Thuney I mean, how many people are walking the earth that have more Super Bowl rings than him, right? There's not a lot of them. He's got 4. And then, Grady Jarrett, while the Falcons haven't been great while he was there, when you're being paid and paid at a high level by a team for 10 years, you're doing something right. Like who's the last Bears player, not a specialist, that was with the club for 10 years?
Jay Cutler?
Was Lance Briggs there?
Yeah.
10 years?
Yeah.
I mean, Cutler was definitely not there 10 years. So you just put that into perspective of the longevity. So there's a reason why they value him on the field, and they really value him off the field. So if those two guys can come in, and I'm not talking about speeches in front of teammates or anything like that, but people see how they go about their business in the meeting room. People see how they handle themselves in the weight room. Every little thing you think you're not paying them to be coaches, but you're hoping that you've got some teammates that are paying attention and keeping an eye on them, and that will help them turn the tide. Because the culture flag at Hallis Hall, let's face it, it looks like it's been through like 3 or 4 hurricanes.
It's weathered. It's well weathered. Yeah.
Despite the 8 captains.
Yeah. Don't even get me started.
What do you think? Two captains this year? 3 bigs back to normal?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't. Like, they got to go out and win. They got to go out and play ball. Like, 8 captains, 4, 3. It's like, not enough wins.
Yeah.
Not enough wins.
You know who the captain is? Ben freaking Johnson. That's the captain of this team. You want to take it in a different direction. Hey, Biggsy, Joe Thuney was hit with a bunch of questions about his future, and it didn't seem like he was ready to or desirous of answering those questions. Will they get that's going to be a priority, right, Brad, to get a long-term deal done, whatever that is, for a 32-year-old guard, Joe Thuney?
Yeah, I thought his answers were fine. He wasn't, like, he doesn't control it. Like, if the team wants to talk to him about a pay raise or an extension, then they know how to get a hold of his agent, right? And most guys are a little uncomfortable talking about contract situations, especially when they're thrown into a new spot. Here's what I believe. Okay, this is my opinion. If the Bears want to present Joe Thuney as this leader for them, they need to put actions into place here, and actions are extending the guy's contract. I do not believe they traded with the Kansas City Chiefs to acquire him with the intention of him starting for them for one season. Mm-hmm. Is there a sense of urgency, a rush to get that done? No. Okay? Not at all. They've got plenty of time, but I also don't believe you can hold the guy up as this great example of new leadership that you brought into your locker room without proving it with the contract. So is that something that happens late in the spring? I've got no guess as to a timeline, but in my opinion, that's something that would at some point need to take place.
Brad, earlier in the offseason, maybe when they introduced Ben Johnson, I think it was Ryan Poles suggesting that there would be competition at left tackle. Yesterday, hearing from some of the new players, as well as maybe the implication from Poles and or Johnson that Braxton Jones was the guy that they counted on to be part of the starting 5 up front. Was that a shift at all to you? And do you think the Bears are comfortable if they have to go into the season, or if they do go into the season with Braxton Jones as their starting left tackle?
Yeah, I heard what you did yesterday. I'm gonna try to not read into too much about roster possibilities here as we get close to mid-March. If you're super comfortable with Braxton Jones at left tackle, you've got even more options and flexibility in terms of the draft. I think there's a possibility that's, I don't want to call it gamesmanship with what they said. We'll have to wait and see. But I also don't believe that they've been as out on Braxton Jones, at least the front office, as some people have wanted to believe was the case. What I've got no idea is how the new coaching staff has evaluated Braxton Jones. So I'm kind of taking a wait and see. I don't want to try to interpret everything that was said in regards to him yesterday, because I think you're doing more guessing than you probably want to be doing.
Yeah, I mean that will.
I mean, did you disagree, Dave, or like?
No, I think that's the right approach to take. I just didn't. I just think there was a subtle shift in the way that they spoke about.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah,
but enough to say, aha, like Braxton is the guy. I don't think that.
I think you're a lot more comfortable talking about him being the guy when you have 3 interior lineman jobs filled in a way that they weren't filled the last time you spoke about it. So
100%.
You know?
Like if Joe Thuney's left next to Braxton Jones, how much better is he than if you've got Tevin Jenkins there about 65% of the time?
But I think you made a good point, Biggs. We know what Ryan Poles thinks about Braxton Jones. I mean, he looks at that as a 5th round gold, and from the beginning he's been starting at left tackle. So we'll see what Ben Johnson thinks about him. I'm looking forward to today as well, Brad. You mentioned Drew Dahlman. We'll also get a chance to talk to Dayo Odangbo, the new defensive end, 3 years, $48 million, $32 million guaranteed. I know that there will be other defensive ends, obviously, on this roster, but is the expectation that, Brad, that Odangbo will be the guy who gets the majority of the action at the opposite spot of Montez Sweat, or could they slide somebody else in still? Is Odangbo that guy?
I mean, $16 million a year. He better be that guy.
Better be that guy.
Yeah, but this is a projection. Isn't this a projection on a player, because the numbers don't exactly stand out at you?
Right, but the projection is that he's going to develop and blossom. He's going to get 70% of the snaps on defense this season if he's healthy. Like, who are you kidding?
No, he's still got something to prove, though. I mean, like, again, I mean, this is not like a. I get it. Like, this is a phenomenal athlete.
If you get it, then you understand that they're not giving a guy $28, $30 million guaranteed to not be the frontline player for at least this season. If the thing blows up and is a disaster, we can have a different conversation next year. But they're not going to slide him somewhere else.
Sure, but what's the projection on him? What are they expecting out of him? Are they expecting 8 sacks out of him? Are they cool with what's been done, and we'll find other ways to get to the quarterback? Like, what are they expecting out of him? Are they expecting that he's going to be are they projecting him to be a 12-sack guy? What are they thinking about him?
I don't think coaches and front office people sit there and put a sack number on players like he's going to be a this for us. I think you're looking for a guy who profiles for what Dennis Allen likes, which is a big, strong player with length on the edge. It's got a good motor. Like he's got everything you'd want to put into that position. Good number of quarterback hits the last couple of seasons. You know, if he can turn just a couple of those hits into finished plays where he's got the quarterback, I think everybody will be pretty content with him. If Grady Jarrett is able to perform at a level that they believe he's at, that they're paying him at, he's going to cause some of that disruption in the interior that is going to naturally produce plays for other guys on the line, Dayo being one of them as well. So, yeah, there's a bit of a projection with him, and you're crossing your fingers that this guy's best football is ahead of him. I know Grady talked about his best being ahead of him, but we're going to be real here. He's 32 next month, going into year 11. He's not what he was at 25. But with Dayo, there's growth potential, and with some of the other guys they've got on the team, if they like him as a developing player, I kind of like sinking the money in that better than going out. It's certainly better than getting a guy like Joey Bosa or one of these other available players where durability is going to be a concern, and the production hasn't been through the roof either. You know, like if Khalil Mack gives you 7 sacks this coming season at $18 million, I think that's what the Chargers are paying him, or even 8 sacks. You rather have that than Dio with 5.5 or 6. If Dio works out, this will have been a pretty shrewd move, and he's a guy that was really interesting for teams because of the physical traits, the skills, and what they've seen on tape.
Brad, when you add 2 guys over 30 like Toney and Jarrett, I think it speaks to just how much urgency there might be attached to the next couple seasons, maybe next season, maybe the one after that, but they're trying to take advantage of the window that's represented by Caleb Williams' rookie contract. Did you sense that urgency yesterday from Ben Johnson? Do you think that's appropriate to go into this, to the draft, to training camp, whatever, to next season, expecting the Bears to contend for the playoffs?
There's certainly urgency, and it catches your attention when they want to bring in players that are on the wrong side of 30, because we've seen that happen before, and we know how that's worked out for other teams as well. That there's a risk associated in a move that on paper looks terrific in March and makes all the sense in the world in March can become a head scratcher by November, right? You're looking at like, well, yeah, he's old and he isn't what he used to be, and what did you expect, right? And you recall back to March when it sounded like a great idea, but there's a sense of urgency. Dave, they've got a really difficult schedule this season. Like, this is going to be a daunting schedule, particularly with the road games that they've got on the docket. They need to be more competitive, though, right? They need to. I think that's the goal, right? You want to be a better football team. Attaching playoffs to it. It's a little bit early. I'd like to see some more. Everyone is aware that there's a good handful of teams that kind of come out of nowhere and make the playoffs each year, and it's gotten easier in the NFL because heck, almost half the team makes the playoffs. So can the Bears profile as one of those teams? Certainly, it's possible. They've got a ton of work to do. They've got more roster reshaping to do. But I don't want to get ahead of myself talking about what this team could potentially accomplish this season.